And he gave me my first great advice by saying, whatever you do, Arnold, be useful. So you also read so many times that I decided from one day to the next to become a bodybuilding champion, and I started training 5 hours a day, and then I became the youngest Mr. Universe ever. Well, it is true. But the fact of the matter is, it's not the whole story, because if I wouldn't have met a lifeguard at the lake where I grew up, and some bodybuilders that introduced me to weight training, and they taught me the first chin-up on a branch of a tree by that lake, and that eventually introduced me also to a weightlifting club locally, where the coaches taught me about powerlifting and weightlifting and bodybuilding. They helped me, and they nurtured me, they pushed me. And then eventually I saw a magazine with Reg Park on the cover. It said, Mr. Universe becomes Hercules. There was Reg Park in a Hercules pose on the cover. I bought that magazine and I read the story from the front to the end cover. And let me tell you something, I read exactly how he trained 5 hours a day, and how he became a champion, Mr. Universe, 3 times, and how he went to America. And then he was discovered in the movies, Hercules movies. Well, when I read that, I found my vision. And let me tell you, the most important thing in life is to have vision, to know exactly where you're going. I found my vision. And that magazine, Reg Park, gave me my blueprint for my life. And 5 years later, after training 5 hours a day, just like him, and doing his exercises, I became, through his help and his inspiration, the youngest Mr. Universe ever. And this is what made then Joe Weider, the father of bodybuilding, the owner of a giant food supplement empire, the editor of Muscle and Fitness, invite me to America. So it was Joe Weider that brought me to America, to the greatest country in the world, to give me the opportunity to train in Gold's Gym and to go and get me a little apartment. I came over here with absolutely nothing. It was his help. I had $20 in the pocket and some sweaty clothes in a gym bag. But let me tell you, I had this one little apartment, and on Thanksgiving, the bodybuilders from Gold's Gym came to my apartment, and they brought me pillows, dishes, silverware, all of the things they didn't have. And even a black and white TV and the transistor radio, which I still have today on my end table next to my bed. The generosity that I saw, the amount of help that I got when I came to America was absolutely extraordinary. So firsthand, how generous the American people are. And then in Gold's Gym, there it was a magical place with all the champions, Mr. Americas, Mr. World, Mr. Universe. Everyone was training their powerlifters, Olympic champions and so on. And they helped me change from an amateur champion to a professional champion. And after that, I won champion after championship, 7 times Mr. Olympia, you heard it all, and became the greatest bodybuilder of all times according to the Bodybuilding magazine in 1975. Now this is just with all of the help. I would not have made any of that by myself. So this is why I don't believe in a self-made man. And even when it comes to show business, it was the same thing. I mean, you read the stories that Schwarzenegger decided from one day to the next to retire from bodybuilding and to go and become an actor. And in no time he did Conan the Barbarian and Terminator and Commander and so on. Well, that is true, but it is only half of the story. Because the reality of it is, with a lot of help, I wouldn't have made it. First of all, it would have been fun to make it that easy and to be that easy. But it was very, very difficult to get into the movies. Very difficult. And only because I had help, I could get in. Because in the beginning, every agent, every manager, every studio executive said, you would never become a leading man. Look at your body, you look like a monster. I was upset about that because I trained so hard and for so long, and all of a sudden they call me monsters. But the bottom line is, they say this is the 70s. 20 years ago they did Hercules movies. Today the little guys are in. Dustin Hoffman, Al Pacino, Woody Allen. Those are the sex symbols of the 70s. Don't you understand it? I said, oh my God, oy vey. I mean, but they even belittled me with my accent. They said, look, the way you talk, I have to be very honest, I don't want to offend you, but you give me the creeps with your accent, with that German accent. It's scary. This is, maybe we can get you a job in Hogan's Heroes, in that TV show, to play a Nazi officer. And plus your name, Schwarzen, Schnitzel, or whatever it is. Yeah, I can see that already up there on the billboard. And people running in because of the name. So the bottom line was, it was very, very difficult, but only because I decided not to listen to the naysayers, and because I decided to work as hard as I did in bodybuilding, to take acting lessons, to take voice lessons, English lessons, speech lessons, and accent removal lessons. Now I know you're gonna say, get your money back, Arnold. But the bottom line is, I ran around, the fine wine grows on a vine. Because the Germans always had difficulties with the F and the W and the V. Fine wine grows on a vine. And then the zinc is made out of zinc and all of those kind of things. So I did this thousands of times, and eventually it worked. I started getting little parts, then I started getting bigger parts, and then eventually, even though it was very difficult, it was Dino De Laurentiis and Ed Pressman that came to me with Conan the Barbarian. And if they wouldn't have helped me to get that part, I would not have broken through and become a leading man. This movie came out, they spent $20 million, which in today's terms is around $200 million on that movie. It was #1 in the box office. That was for me the big breakthrough. And at the press conference, the director even said, if we wouldn't have Schwarzenegger, we would have had to build one. Because I was the only one that could act and had a body like that for Conan the Barbarian. And then, of course, there was James Cameron, the director Terminator. When Terminator came out, James Cameron said the reason why Terminator worked was because Schwarzenegger talks like a machine. Now, I don't know if I should take this as a compliment or what, but I mean, the bottom line is, it was the two things that the studio executive said would be a big liability, became big assets. And my career took off. And this is why I always say thank you to the people that helped me along the way, and not ever think that I'm a self-made man, because not only was the producer and the director so helpful and the studio executive so helpful, but every person that works in a movie. As a matter of fact, when we have a wrap party, which is the party on the end of the movie, I always make sure that every single person